Can you share tips on how to improve English based on your teaching experience?
For example, during maybe set 4 or 5 alarms for the day.
I get questions like this a lot. How long do I have to study English to be fluent like you? Well, in my case, in about a year. But I studied English in Australia. I used English 24/7, except when I was sleeping. But not everyone can go overseas to study English, nor can study English 24/7 like I did. So, without studying abroad, how long do you have to study English to be good? To answer that question, I interviewed 3 teachers from 3 different countries. This video is brought to you by Cambly. You can have English conversation classes with the teachers from various countries like America, Canada, Australia, and the UK, and it's one-on-one. It's available 24/7, anytime, anywhere, as long as you have your phone in your hand or a computer nearby.
When did you start noticing that their English was improving? Like after how many months or how many sessions?
The 2 ladies that I have, which are from Saudi Arabia, who spoke no English, I noticed they improved after the first month. Because we go through a structured class of grammar, speaking and reading. They were able to start putting sentences together. They were only basic. What they couldn't say before to what they could actually say after the first month it was pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's very impressive. For beginners, it's easy to improve and see, but for like maybe intermediate students, it takes longer to improve, right?
Yeah, I think you get to that point where you know your grammar, you know your conversational skills, you know your vocabulary, but it's then moving on from knowing English to be sounding more native. So it's kind of changing your structure of words to them using phrasal verbs and idioms just to sound a little bit more native. And I think that's where they slow down and it gets a bit more, it's just a bit more frustrating because you don't see the progression like you do when you're a beginner.
So do you get students who specifically want to learn like a British accent?
Yeah. And that's just crazy.
Can you share tips on how to improve English based on your teaching experience?
Just speak, even if it's about the weather. It's not rocket science, it's not difficult. It's just doing it on a daily basis.
Yeah, if you want to improve speaking, you have to speak.
Yes.
How many sessions a week or how long of the session would you recommend?
Say 3 times a week, 30 minutes. I have students that do an hour, and I think an hour can be too long. I think after 30 minutes, I see that they're starting to, they're like, oh God, this is tiring.
It was great. Thank you for sharing your tips.
You are welcome.
So when did you start noticing that their English was improving? Like after how many months or how many sessions?
Usually it's maybe after like the first month and a half, you start noticing some improvements. And also it's also depends on how much they also study a little bit on their own.
How many sessions were they taking to be able to see that progress?
I think usually around 3 half-an-hour sessions per week. That's what's working with many.
That's a lot of dedication.
It is. Usually I've found that 15 minutes, sometimes it's too short to really get like a good amount of content in. Sometimes I've seen 1 hour per week. With 1 hour, sometimes the students kind of lose focus.
I don't agree with just doing it once a week because you will forget.
Yeah, and the idea of this is just to be practicing constantly, right?
Can you share tips on how to improve English based on your teaching experience?
Whenever we have like conversations and maybe they're learning new words or they're intrigued by certain words, I tell them, write these words down so you can maybe practice them later and so you can really naturalize them into your vocabulary. For example, during maybe set 4 or 5 alarms for the day, in different situations in their lives to try to use any of these words. So for example, let's say we're practicing or they learned the word pick up. So let's say the alarm rings at breakfast time and they have to try to use pick up, and they say, oh, I have to pick up my spoon and eat my breakfast.
Right.
Also, maybe in the afternoon, they have to go and pick their brother or sister up from school. So another alarm sounds, you'd say, oh, I have to pick my brother, my sister, my mother up in my car or something like that. So it's like trying to use it in different contexts.
I see. So you learn something from Cambly and then test it outside and then come back and remind yourself and then keep improving.
Exactly.
Keep practicing.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you for sharing your tips.
All right, no problem. My pleasure.
When did you start noticing that their English was improving? Like, after how many months or how many sessions?
I think it probably takes a good 3 or 4 weeks of 3 times a week for you to notice it. So a month, I would say, depending on the student and how committed they are to the program.
I see. So you're saying that do it frequently every week.
Yes. If they're looking to increase their fluency and natural speaking, I recommend to them 5 days a week, a 15-minute session, because if their English is reasonable and they're just trying to get fluency, it's about that consistency so that they start to think in English. If they're trying to increase their vocabulary and their English isn't great, I recommend a longer session, but not as many.
Can you share tips on how to improve English based on your teaching experience?
I recommend that you get immersed in it as much as you possibly can. So I think reading out aloud is important because you learn to hear your own mistakes. It also engages a couple of parts of their brain. If they're reading out aloud, they're looking at the words and they're hearing the words, which is really important. We find on Cambly that there are a lot of families that 2 or 3 of the people in the family are on Cambly, but they don't talk English in the home.
Oh, no. Yeah, they should take advantage of it, right?
Yeah. I find it amazing that they're willing to pay for 3 people in their family to learn English, but they won't practice with each other. Like, we really got to encourage them to practice with each other.
Thank you for sharing your tips.
It seems like 30 minutes a day is a good amount. So I asked Cambly, may I have 30-minute code for my subscribers? They generously said yes. If you see other YouTubers advertising Cambly, their code only give you 15 minutes. Mine's 30 minutes. So take advantage of it. It's Jinger with J 0120. Remember, if you wanna improve speaking, you've got to speak. Try 30 minutes and see how you like it. If you don't like it, you have nothing to lose because your first 30 minutes is free with my code. Again, it's Jinger with J 0120. When you live in Korea, it's really hard to get a chance to speak English. So here's your chance. Free 30 minutes. Feeling nervous? If you don't overcome your fear, your English will never improve. Come out of your shell and just do it. And once you start, be consistent. I want you to succeed and have better English skills. I hope this video is helpful. I'll see you next time. Bye. In the end, we only regret the chances that we didn't take. 결국 우리는 기회가 왔을 때 잡지 못한 것을 후회한다. 루이스 캐럴.